Welcome, fellow explorers. My name is Christian Alexanderson, and this is Hemlocks to Hellbenders, a podcast highlighting Pennsylvania's parks, forests, and great outdoors. It's difficult for me to pick what I like most about Black Moshannon State Park. It's a struggle I face every time I recommend this wonderful park to friends, which is often. I'll go from talking about the incredible camping and cabin opportunities to swooning about the park's lake and bog. Then I get going about the abundance of wildlife. And then the hiking trails. And then the hunting and fishing. Then I realize 30 minutes have gone by and the person I've been talking to stopped caring about 25 minutes ago. But I just love this park. I'm excited to tell people about this oasis less than 40 minutes from State College. It's an incredible piece of Pennsylvania, something uncommon in the Commonwealth. Black Moshannon truly has something for everyone. It's great for solo travelers and for families. It's awesome in the summer and the winter. You can hear loons around the fire pit at night, and you can see families of deer in the morning. Despite it being about 2 hours from where I live, I probably spent more time at Black Moshannon than any other park. And I keep being pulled back there year after year. And every time I think I've seen everything, every time I think I've experienced everything Black Mo has to offer, it reveals another secret. It shows me more beauty, more views, more wildlife, more activities, and more fun. It continues to surprise me, and that's what keeps me coming back several times a year. It's a park with a deep history that includes Pennsylvania's indigenous people, the first European settlers, tradespeople, merchants, and the Civilian Conservation Corps. But before we learn more about the park, here's the stats. Black Moshannon State Park is a 3,394-acre park located in Center County. Available activities include hiking, picnicking, camping, swimming, wildlife watching, boating, fishing, hunting, mountain biking, horse riding, cross-country skiing, ice skating, and snowmobiling. A notable feature of the park is its lake and murky bog. Black Moshannon State Park derives its name from the Algonquin word Moshannon, meaning Elk River Place, and black, referring to the darkness of the water. Nearby towns include Phillipsburg, Port Matilda, and State College. State parks that are close by include Bald Eagle, Whipple Dam, and Penn Roosevelt State Parks. You may enjoy the park if you enjoy a bevy of outdoor activities. I'm excited to welcome Michelle McCloskey to the podcast. Michelle is the Environmental Education Specialist at Black Moshannon State Park. Michelle, thanks so much for joining the program.
Thanks for having us.
How would you describe the park to someone who's never been there before?
Our park covers around 3,394 acres, and we also have a 250-acre lake. It's very unique. It's very dark colored. And we have our bog natural area, which is going to cover around 1,600 acres, and it includes bogs, marshes, swamps, and then the forest that is surrounding that area. And the whole park is going to be surrounded by 40,000 acres of Moshannon State Forest and also some game lands. So there's lots of area here.
Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the park and its connection with Pennsylvania's indigenous people?
Sure. The park was built in 1937. Our lake wasn't here. It was actually Black Moshannon Creek, and it was broken up by beaver dams, and that was creating wetlands throughout the whole area. Small creeks and springs were feeding into that area. And there were a few trails that were leading people to this prime hunting and fishing area. And it was already being called Moshannon during that time period. And Moshannon meant the Elk River Place. So the Seneca, Delaware, and Iroquois people were all coming into this area to hunt the vast woodlands and also to fish in the ponds. And Black Moshannon Creek path actually went from Milesburg to Tyrone area. And it's a very narrow pathway that was going through, and there was a little cutoff that actually came up to the Black Moshannon State Park area and then continued on to Phillipsburg. In that area, people were able to travel here. They were able to get to the hunting grounds, and it ended up being a great pathway for them to travel on, except for when they hit the wetlands. And that's a little bit important when I get to a part of the area that I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Eventually, that trail became a pack horse trail. During the 1700s, there were two treaties that were signed. One was the 1754 Albany Purchase, and the other was the 1768 Treaty of Fort Stanwix. And basically, the land was being signed over. In 1769, our first settler came into the area, and most of the indigenous people by that time had left. There was only a very small group left in the Bald Eagle Valley and then near Phillipsburg. The pathway became a road, and it was built for wagons, and it ended up being abandoned because of difficulty coming up over the mountain, and there was no money allocated to even fix it. Eventually, they did open up Rattlesnake Pike in 1821, and that was part of the Philadelphia Erie Turnpike, and that made travel into this area much, much easier. Um, by then, most of the indigenous people had completely left, and it was the settlers that were moving in. They did notice that there was a lot of huge white pine trees and hemlocks here, and they quoted it as being dark even in daylight as they were traveling through this area. And in 1856 was the first land that was purchased by William Underwood. He actually purchased 15,000 acres for only $1.50 an acre. And he built Beaver Mills number 1 and 2, and they supplied planks for our roadways that were in this area. And in 1 year, the Beaver Mills actually sent 11 million feet of logs to Williamsport, and that's one of the largest amounts that's ever been sent by a single logger to Williamsport. And as that mill began to fail, he's like, I'm going to get rid of this land. He sold it to John Ardell Jr. of Bellefonte area. He built a steam sawmill, and it produced shingles, pickets, and boxes. The logs were brought to the mill by 2 horses pulling carts. And during that time period, they had about 250 horses working here. And they actually paid more to have the horses there than they were paying the people that were working there. And the boards were prepared, moved to Julienne, and then they were placed on rail cars, which they then transport all the way to Williamsport. And during that time period, the mid to late 1800s, small villages emerged, and we ended up with a blacksmith shop, a one-room schoolhouse, houses, they had a store, and they also built stables to keep those horses. The only thing we have left from that time period is the one-room schoolhouse, which is still standing today and is in our day use area of the park. And as that ended, the lumber era, the Civilian Conservation Corps began its work and began transforming the park into the state park.
What an incredibly rich history you have at the park. It's not only the indigenous people and then the settlers, but it's also the development of transportation and settlement. I mean, it must be pretty special to work in a park that has such unique characteristics like that.
Oh, it definitely is. And even along our Rattlesnake Pike area, we can still actually see the mile markers that were placed there during the 1800s. So we get to view all that historical items that were still here.
What do you love most about the park?
It's very unique. We have a lot of wetlands in the area, and it's going to provide great habitats for many species of plants and animals. So while we're here at work, we do get to view all the animals that are in the area, and we also get to see species of plants that a lot of places might not have.
When I was coming up with the idea of which parks to focus on for 2024, Black Moshannon was at the top of my list. It's the park I probably spend the most time at, despite the fact that you're not very close to where I live. But I think it's just because of so many unique features that you have. You can talk about the camping, and then you go, oh, well, the hiking is also great. Also, there's the lake, and you can learn about the bog. It just seems like anytime I want to recommend one thing, I have to recommend 50 things because it's so great.
It is hard to recommend different things throughout our park because there is a lot to see.
One of the most unique aspects of the park is the 250-acre Black Moshannon Lake and Bog. Can you tell us about them and their importance to the ecosystem in the area?
Sure. Our lake was created by the Civilian Conservation Corps during the 1930s. There have been 2 other dams built since then. It's a very, very shallow lake, and it's going to be completely covered with lily pads. There's spatterdock, there's water shield growing on it. The deepest part of the lake is just a very small area that's around 12 to 16 feet, and that's right in front of our fishing pier. The rest of the lake, you're looking at about 4 to 6 feet. The water does look like tea, and when you try to collect a very small amount of it and look at it, and that's caused by the tannins that are coming from the sphagnum moss in our bog area. And the bog is a very acidic area, and decomposition takes place at a much slower rate than it occurs out in the forest. And the dead sphagnum moss in that area, we have measured it. In some areas, it's up to 4 feet deep of
Wow.
just peat moss piled up. There's not a lot of soil with nutrients there for the plants. So the plants that live in the bog do have very special adaptations for being able to survive in that area. We do have 3 carnivorous plants that are found in the bog and in the lake. So we have the purple pitcher plant, roundleaf sundew, and we do have several species of bladderwort that are free floating in the lake area. And they can get additional nutrients from the insects that they're able to break down, so they don't need a lot of nutrients in the soil for them. Our bog area also has cranberries, so you can pick cranberries here. Blueberries are everywhere. Early July is a good time to come and look for those. And we do have many orchid species. Some of them are very rare that can be found throughout our area.
In terms of the state park system, I feel like bogs are pretty rare. Do you know a lot of other places that actually had bogs in their state parks?
There's not too many in the state parks, but there are some in forestry areas, but they're not very common. We have what's considered one of the largest reconstituted bogs in Pennsylvania here at our park.
How can visitors learn more about the lake and the bog, and then how can they explore them in the park?
If they came here and were hiking the bog trail, which is an elevated boardwalk that does have signs along it that they can read. We have wayside exhibits. We also are going to offer guided hikes in the bog that we do quite often. We take hikes to a beaver pond and talk about the beavers. Pontoon boat rides are offered throughout our summer months on Sundays most of the time. So you can go out for an hour-long pontoon boat ride and see the lake that way. And we also do kayak paddles to view the lake and in the bog areas.
And in terms of water activities, I know you also have a small beach. Where can visitors find the beach?
The beach is located in the main days area where Beaver Road and Route 504 cross. The beach is sitting right in that area near the bridge in the middle of the park.
Black Moshannon has 20 miles of hiking trails. Do you have any favorite recommendations or favorite trails you would tell people?
I do. We always recommend the bog trail, of course, and that's definitely one of my favorites due to the unique plants and animals that are in that area. But there are some other ones that are must check out list. The Star Mill Trail is a 2-mile hike that follows the edge of the lake, and they'll meander through a forested area before coming back around to the parking lot. There are a few signs of lumber activity from the 1800s on that trail. You can see the stumps that have been preserved out in the lake area from when they cut down trees. And there is a small part of a foundation where the one-room schoolhouse used to sit that you can find along the trail. It's hard to see, but it is there. And that trail is also open to mountain biking. So if you'd rather mountain bike it instead of hiking it, you can do that. And we also have a great loop with our Moshannon Trail out to the Seneca Trail and to the Hay Road Trail. And that will get you into an area where there is a beaver pond. You can see that up close. And if you enjoy bird watching, many of the warblers, the species that we have here are found in that area. I can also see green herons around the beaver pond. And some of the trees that are in that area, you might notice that they're planted in complete straight lines. And that's because the CCC had planted them in the 1930s.
The sheer variety of trails that you have, I think, at Black Moshannon is really incredible because you can have difficulty levels of very easy, a little bit harder. You also have the fact that you can have mountain biking and hiking. Do you see people taking advantage of those hiking opportunities when they come and visit?
All the time, especially the bog trail. That's our most popular. We also have a lake loop trail, which loops around the lake down past the dam and then up to the swimming area. So a lot of people enjoy hiking that one also.
And now, let's hear from our sponsors. Build your own 3-day hiking adventure during Keystone Trails Association's Spring Hiking Weekend in Stroudsburg, Pennsylvania, from Friday, April 19th through Sunday, April 21st. Choose from 23 different volunteer-led hikes ranging anywhere from 1 to 10 miles. Explore the Appalachian Trail, Beltsville State Park, Glen Run Nature Preserve, and so much more. Come solo to make friends or bring a friend along. Sign up at www.kta-hike.org. Are you looking for your next adventure? Unlock some of the best landscapes in Pennsylvania with incredibly detailed, highly curated, waterproof maps from the folks at Purple Lizard. They create extraordinary maps of Pennsylvania state forests for people who love to explore the outdoors. Find them at your local outfitters, bike shops, and bookstores, or visit purplelizard.com, where your next adventure begins. Hey podcast explorers, did you know Pennsylvania state parks and forests are the heartbeat of our Commonwealth? They're not just natural wonders, they're vital for our well-being and local economies. That's where the Pennsylvania Parks and Forests Foundation steps in. They rally volunteers, raise funds, and advocate for these precious lands. Join the movement to preserve and enjoy our outdoor treasures. Learn more at paparksandforests.org. Let's keep Pennsylvania untamed and beautiful together. All right, back to the show. Black Mo has a number of camping options, including tent camping, RV and trailer sites, deluxe cottages, and cabins. What can you tell us about the different options that are available?
There's a lot of them. Campsites, we have some full hookups. We have electric, we have non-electric, we have pet friendly, we have ones that are not pet friendly. And then when we get into our cabins, there's rustic cabins, which were actually built by the Civilian Conservation Corps. They do not have restrooms inside of them, but there is a centralized restrooms shower house that is shared amongst those in those cabins. The small ones sleep 4 and the large ones can sleep up to 6. And then we have deluxe cottages. They're basically a modern version of our rustic cabins. And then we also have modern cabins, and they have 2 bedrooms, bathroom, kitchen, living room, dining room. And some of those are pet friendly right now. And we also have cabin 20, which is our very unique cabin. It was originally built as a ski lodge, and it was used during the 70s and early 80s. It does overlook the old ski slopes and the valley below it. And it was recently updated, and it now includes 2 restrooms, 4 bedrooms, a kitchen, a living room, and a beautiful deck to sit out on in the evening.
Well, I definitely want to stay there. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
The park has a strong connection to the Civilian Conservation Corps. The Beaver Meadow CCC camp became one of the first to open. It put over 200 young men to work. What sort of things did they build in the park and the surrounding public lands?
Our rustic cabins, as I mentioned earlier, were built by them. Also, the concession building was built by the Civilian Conservation Corps. Most of our pavilions, there's only 1 or 2 that were not built by them. We have stone steps, like the ones that are leading down to our beach house and in other areas of the park that were built by them. And they built our first dam that created Black Moshannon Lake. And then surrounding us, it was going out and building all the dirt roads that we drive on today.
And I'll tell you, if you visit Black Moshannon, you can feel that legacy of their work there. I mean, it's pretty evident in how much they did there, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
A visitor has a full day to explore the park. What do you recommend they do?
There's so many options to pick from to enjoy the day at Black Moshannon. I recommend kayaking on the lake and then stopping by one of the many picnic areas for a quick meal. If somebody would rather go hiking, we do have the Moss Hannah Trail, which is about an 8-mile hike. So that'll take a good portion of your day to enjoy that. And it's going to go through many different types of wetlands in the forest. And that's your best chance to see wildlife in the park. It's not heavily used trail. We also have a portion of the Allegheny Front Trail, which is a 40-mile backpacking trail that goes through the park. So it's a nice area to go and visit. We do have the beach for visitors to enjoy during the warmer weather. This time of year, not recommended. There's fishing. During winter, we are a very popular place for ice fishing also. And then if they're staying overnight, definitely recommend sitting out in the late evening hours. They can watch for flying squirrels. We also have great horned owls and coyotes that you can sometimes hear calling in the campground area while they're sitting around enjoying a campfire at the end of the evening. Visitors may hear a porcupine chattering. You can see raccoons trying to sneak through the area. And the campground area also sometimes gets to hear whippoorwills calling in the background too in the late evening hours. So spending an overnight, it's definitely good to see the wildlife in the late evening.
I also was on a camping trip at Black Mo, and I got to hear loons for the first time in my life. I thought that was just so cool because anytime most people hear them, they're in sci-fi movies that they use on different planets. But that really unique call is so cool to hear for the first time.
And we normally have the loons here in October and November, and once in a while they do stop over in the spring during migration. It's one of our northern species that does stop over, and it's very eerie to hear them calling across the lake.
Do visitors have an opportunity, if not in the park, in the area, to be able to see elk?
The elk are about half an hour away from us. So some people do camp here and then travel. up towards the Quahana Wild area and into Benezet to go and watch for the elk, but we don't have any in the park yet.
If a visitor has only a couple hours, what do you think they should do?
Definitely recommend taking a short hike, the Bog Trail, the Lake Loop Trail, or even the Star Mill Trail. If it's during the spring, I'd recommend going on the Sleepy Hollow Trail. There's lots of wildflowers along that trail during the spring. Can also get great views of the lake, even from the boat launches. And a quick paddle on the lake would also be recommended.
When do you think is the best time to visit the park?
It's always a good time to visit Black Moshannon State Park. Each season has its own advantages. During the spring, we do have a lot of migrating birds that will be stopping over. You can catch a glimpse of something that's usually not here. We do get tundra swans that'll come in and stop over, buffleheads swimming out on the lake, bald eagles will stop over for a rest before they continue on. During the summer, we get beautiful views of the lake with the lilies blooming. We also great time for picnics, swimming, hiking, enjoying some fishing in the evenings. During autumn, in the bog area, we do get amazing tree colors. It usually only lasts about a week or two in October, but it's gorgeous. And in the winter, our outdoor winter recreation is a great thing to do during that time.
When would you say is the busiest time for you at the park?
Midsummer,
Yeah. Coming to the lake?
yes.
Yeah.
We're a little bit cooler here. So a lot of people will come here in the midsummer when it's very hot and try to get away from that a little bit, cool off some.
Black Moshannon offers a number of educational recreational programs throughout the year. What kind of subjects do the programs cover?
We do have several large events throughout our year. During the winter months, we do the Fun in the Snow at Black Mo. And during that event, people will get the chance to do ice mini golf on our lake, ice bowling. We also will offer cross country skiing, snowshoeing, ice skating. They'll be looking for signs of wildlife during that program. We have Women in the Wilds in the spring, which is a class that women can come to. They get to pick 4 different topics to attend throughout the day. We also do one of those for PA Wildchild in June. And then in July, we hold our Lumber Legacy Day. So people can come out and try some of the skills that the lumbermen had actually used. So they do get to use a crosscut saw, try to roll a log with a peavey. And we also do axe throwing during that event that they can try. And then in October, we have our very popular Haunted Lake Loop Trail, which is a mile long through the woods along the edge of the lake so people can come out and have a good time getting scared and learn something about the park while they're here. We also offer regular weekend programs, guided hikes. We talk about the bog, different animals. In the spring, we talk about wildflowers. I said earlier about the pontoon boat rides on Sundays. We offer science programs for kids to come to, old-fashioned skill programs. Kayak paddles are very popular. We do full moon paddles where we go to a campfire sitting off along the edge of the lake, and we have pizza mountain pies and s'mores during that. And we also do meteor shower watches out on the lake. We teach archery programs, bird watching. You can go into the lake or stream and see what kind of bugs and fish you can catch. And we also do a lot of solar viewing programs at the beach during the summer months. And we also do programs for schools and organized groups that might be interested.
How popular are your educational programs? Because it seems the variety is so huge. I feel like you would get a large group of people every time.
They are very popular. Some of them fill up very quickly. Our kids' camps, we offer archery and kayaking, and they fill about a year in advance.
Oh, wow. Okay.
They're definitely popular.
Well, I have to try that ice mini golf. That sounds like the coolest thing I've ever heard in my life. So
It's really fun.
yeah, you're going to see me there. The high elevation and slight basin shape keeps the park cool. As a result, many plants and animals that are normally only observed farther north can be seen in the park. What can visitors spot throughout the year?
During the spring migration, we do have many different species that are going to stop here as they're migrating northward. There are times in the spring where we'll see over 100 tundra swans on the lake. And we also will see the bald eagles coming in. That's normally going to occur in late February or March. Unfortunately, because we're on the mountain in a dip and it is a little cooler here, if our lake does stay frozen and the lakes surrounding us are melting, they usually skip us. So we do announce on our Black Moshannon State Park Facebook page when they are here so people can come and see them. During fall migration, we do have the common loons that'll stop over for a few days. And we are listed as an important bird area through the National Audubon Society. And one of the reasons for that is because of all the different species that are found here. We have Beery, the northern water thrush, and Canada warblers, which are found here in the park. And they are at the southern end of their breeding range here in Pennsylvania. We do have tussock cottongrass, which is found throughout the bog area in August and September. And that's a plant that's normally found much farther north. And we also have creeping snowberry, which is very rare in Pennsylvania because it's reaching the southern edge of its range. And we do have that here in the park too.
If visitors have questions when they visit, where's the best place they should go to ask some questions?
They can stop me if they see me out and about in the park, one of the rangers, or stop by the park office and they can ask questions there.
I'd also say that your park office in particular has so many good brochures about what you can see in the park and where you can go and the hiking trails available. I think it makes it very easy for people to learn things, even if the park office is closed during a certain time of year.
Yeah, we do have a lot out there. You can get bird list, you can find the park map, Moshannon State Forest, the Allegheny Front Trail map. So there's a lot of good information there.
There's a chance that visitors can encounter a bear in the park. What sort of recommendations do you give for people to avoid bear interactions, and what should they do if they encounter a bear?
And Black Moshannon is definitely known for having bear here. They do like to be in the wetland areas, and once in a while they will come out and people see them. If you're camping here, definitely do not leave food out overnight, not just because of the bear, but also the raccoon will steal your marshmallows and any food that you leave out. You want to make sure at the end of the evening, make sure all your garbage is placed into our bear-proof dumpsters, and that's going to help them from getting into any of that. Definitely want to be very careful about that.
The park is home to a host of winter activities that visitors can participate in. What can visitors do in the winter?
There's a lot of activities for our winter months if the weather cooperates. If we have a safe level of ice and we have snow, cross-country skiing is very popular here. Can also go ice skating. We do have an ice skating area that we try to keep open. Ice fishing is very popular, and also snowmobiling. There are snowmobile trails throughout the park. And if we don't have any snow and ice, hiking is a great option to take the place of those. We actually have loaner equipment here in our park office that people can come and borrow for free. So we have ice skates, all different sizes, cross-country skis, and also snowshoes that they can borrow. And for those that are coming here to go ice fishing, if they forget some of their equipment, we actually have some here so that they don't have to go all the way back home and get it. All they have to do is stop in here and ask, and they can borrow some of the equipment. And if they don't know how to do all these activities, we actually can do a very quick lesson and get people started.
Well, I'm going to take you up on that with ice fishing because I want to try
Okay.
it so bad. Do you have any tips for people who plan on visiting the park?
If we're not here, if the office happens to be closed, always make sure you grab a park map. That way you're going to know where you're at. Because we're on the mountain in the dip, it is always a few degrees colder here. So in the summer, that's great, but in the winter, it's something to be aware of. So you want to dress in layers and be prepared for an area that's a little bit colder than the surrounding towns. If you're out hiking, especially in the spring, make sure to wear waterproof shoes. Some of our trails are a little wet and muddy. Want to make sure to bring your tick spray along. And the question we get asked all the time is there's little to no cell phone coverage in the park, and we do not have Wi-Fi. So please be prepared for that when you are coming into the park and you come out and enjoy Black Moshannon State Park.
Michelle, thanks so much for talking to us today. We really appreciate it.
And thank you for having me.
I want to thank my guest Michelle McCloskey for joining the podcast. Be sure to follow us on Instagram and Meta for more information about upcoming episodes. You can support the podcast by buying merch at hemlockstohelpbenders.com, or you can click support this show in the podcast description to provide a monthly donation. This has been Hemlocks to Hellbenders. I'll see you out there. Hosting, production, and editing by Christian Alexanderson. Music by John Sauer. Graphics by Matt Davis.